Hi there, and welcome back to another episode of the Executive Code podcast. If you're new to the podcast, what we discuss here on this podcast is everything to do with life purpose and helping you on your journey towards personal mastery. If you want to find out more about discovering your life purpose and everything that we do to help people to achieve personal mastery, head over to our website, which is paulwilliamdavis.com. If you're an existing listener to our podcast and you're used to how we do our podcast here, you'll know that I'm actually flying solo today. I don't have Nicole with me as my co-pilot. Right now at the moment, Nicole is actually doing her final exams in relation to being an aircraft pilot. So we're wishing her well. We're hoping she's getting on well with her exams, and we absolutely want her to pass her exams. So if you're listening, Nicole, when you're finishing your exams, I hope you've passed them now at this stage, and we are absolutely wishing you well on your career path. And hopefully Nicole will be back soon in terms of joining me on these podcast episodes and giving more information for yourselves. And as a result of flying solo, I actually wasn't going to record a podcast because there's been quite a lot of stuff going on in my own life. And I kind of said, actually, you know what, maybe I'll just give it a bit of a break. However, I was prompted to actually this morning to wake up and record a particular podcast. So there's actually a few different things I'm going to share in this particular podcast. Some of the stuff I don't share, and I'll go down through that in a minute. But there's a reason where I feel that I've been asked to share this information. As I said, I was woken up with a prompt. I wasn't going to record a podcast. Right now at the moment, it's Saturday. So this is just a couple of days before the podcast gets released. Normally we have these podcast episodes recorded a good few weeks in advance before they're actually released. But what's actually going on, and here's what I'm understanding as the reason why I've been actually prompted to record as a particular episode. There's going to be quite a lot of things coming down the tracks globally. I'm not just talking here in Ireland, I'm talking in every single country around the world. And over the next number of months and over the next number of years, there's going to be a lot of different things that are going to be happening, which is going to unnerve an awful lot of people. And because of that, people will find it actually quite difficult to deal with a lot of the challenges that people face. Now, right now at the moment, there's an awful lot of people that are experiencing different things within their business. So they're struggling within their business. Some are trying to deal with all the challenges that we've been facing in relation to inflation right around the world, energy costs, all that kind of thing. So there's a lot of things happening right now at the moment. And there's going to be an awful lot more coming down through the tracks. That's, as I said on previous episodes, that's not to scare you. I'm actually trying to prepare everybody in terms of listeners and clients that I work with in the hope and support that it helps them to deal with what's actually going to come down. So I can understand the reason why I've been prompted to record this particular episode. And what I suppose I've been guided to actually share is some of the personal stuff that's been going on in my life for the past, in some respects, it's gone on a couple of years, a little bit more than a couple of years, to be honest. Other stuff has been happening in terms of over the last number of months, and other stuff has been happening over the last week. So I've been guided to share some personal stuff. Now, I don't normally share personal stuff. I share with some clients, but I generally don't. If you've listened to this podcast, it'd be very rare for me to share anything as regards the challenges that I will be experiencing going through literally just everyday life. So as you will know, then I don't share personal stuff. And one of the main reasons for that is because everybody else has their stuff to deal with. So they don't need to know about what's the stuff that I'm going through. But the reason why I've been guided to share it is that it might actually help some people that are going through challenges right now at the moment, or will be going through challenges when they're listening to this episode or when they find it. So hence the reason why I'm recording this side of things, and hence the reason why I'm sharing some of the stuff that's going on. So let me go through a couple of things that are going on right now over recent weeks and months, okay? First of all, my mum was 94. She, her 94th birthday was at the end of July, it's the 22nd of July. An absolutely amazing woman. But what I would say to you is that, given 94, it's an amazing age to achieve. But over the last number of months, there's been several times we've been told, she may not last very long. So there's a lot of things that were going on back and forth in terms of looking after her care, making sure she's okay. She's still living at home, and we have carers coming in, and between the carers and as in the private carers and professional carers coming in, as well as family members, were helping her on her journey in the last whatever length of time that she has left. So you can imagine, I presume, some of the things that comes up in relation to an elderly parent. She's the last parent I have. My father passed away 6 years ago. So you can imagine what's actually going on from that side of things in relation to knowing what's imminent in some respects. So that's one thing that's been going on over the last number of weeks and months. Last Thursday, the 1st of September, was the 1 year anniversary of my second brother passing away. Now, again, if you've listened to this podcast from the very, very beginning, episode 1, 2, or 3, I think it was, I explained the reason why I do some of the work that I do. And that was when my first brother passed away. His name was Eugene, and he died at the age of 53, very, very suddenly. So that was kind of an impetus for a lot of things that got me to do some of the things of what I do in terms of revealing more about my intuitive gifts that I've had since I was born, and a lot of the insights and the knowings that I get for clients, and to pursue the journey of helping as many people as possibly can in relation to what I can do from a gift perspective, but also how I've developed a methodology over different years. And that's more in line with discovering an individual's life purpose. So that's my first brother passed away. My father passed away 6 years ago. And my other brother, Anthony, passed away on the 1st of September last year. So his 1 year anniversary happened during the week. And so you can imagine 1 year anniversary. Anthony passed away from dealing with prostate cancer and pancreatic cancer. He developed pancreatic cancer in the last year, just before he passed away. So there's a number of different memories that were coming up over the last week or so in the build-up of that, and we were doing a number of different activities in relation to marking his anniversary and so on. And his birthday was just in August, so it brought a lot of things back in terms of the visits that we had to Anthony in Amsterdam, because he lived in Amsterdam, the visits on his birthday just before he passed away. So again, that kind of thing was coming up, let's put it that way. On Wednesday next, this podcast will be released next Tuesday. As I said, I'm recording this podcast on Saturday. The podcast will be released on Tuesday. So if you're listening to this, you're listening to this on Tuesday, or you're watching the YouTube channel on Tuesday. Tomorrow, which will be Wednesday then, when this happens for me a few days away, we're going to meet with the doctors. It's a multidisciplinary team. We're going to meet with the doctors of my younger brother. So my younger brother is 52. He's Down syndrome. He's born with Down syndrome, and we've had a few meetings over the last couple of years in terms of his prognosis. So the meeting that's going to be taking place next Wednesday is going to give us a lot more information in terms of different things that have been happening to him over the past year or so, and different difficulties that he's now facing. So the meeting on Wednesday will give us a little bit more information in terms of his own prognosis and what's likely to be happening over the next number of months before he passes away. That's literally where we're at right now at the moment. So as you can imagine, all those different things going on in a family dynamic. So as some of you guys know, I'm the seventh son of a seventh. So there's a lot of family dynamics that go on. So you can imagine with all the different stresses that are happening and all the different concerns and worries and things that are happening, you can imagine the family dynamic that's playing out right now at the moment. On a more personal side of things, from me, I've been going from medical consultant to medical consultant to medical consultant over the last number of years. Again, I only share this with a number of my clients and people within the Pilots Lounge. Trying to find what is actually going on with me from a medical perspective. So every single consultant I've gone to, I pass all the tests in terms of heart, lungs, you name it, all the different blood tests and so on. I pass with flying colours, but for some reason they still really can't get to the bottom line of what's actually going on. I was given a glimmer of hope with a consultant recently, but then a few other things actually showed up. So that's something that I've been working on, and it is also part of what drives me in terms of what the legacy I want to build. So again, people that will know me, last May I released a course that I've been working on for quite a while. It's in relation to the methodology that I developed to discover an individual's life purpose. That course was released last May. The students that have been going through it, I'm just blown away by the results that they're getting from it, which is absolutely brilliant. But that was one step towards the legacy I want to leave behind. So there's a reason why I'm doing certain things within the community and doing certain things within the course environment in order to leave that legacy behind. So will the consultants be able to find whatever is actually going on? I really don't know. But it's a reason for me to do some of the things that I'm doing. That's one thing. On a really I issue that happened over the week, and again, I wanted to just sharing these things because it's just, in some respects, they're so funny. In other respects, I just want to give you an idea or a glimpse. Again, just because I was prompted to do it this morning. I left my car in for a service. It would normally cost a couple of €100 to service the car. And we got a phone call that afternoon to say, okay, it needs a new battery. And believe it or not, the battery costs close to €400. So by the time it was finished, it literally the whole cost came close to €1,000 for the actual service. So that's something that was completely unexpected. I was expecting a couple of €100, but actually ended up being close to €1,000. So that, again, just these things pop up, all right? And there's a reason why I'm sharing this information as well. And to put the cherry on the cake, I was sent a link to a website of somebody that's in the States that is doing or marketed as being helping people to discover what their life purpose is. And I had to look at the website and I was blown away by the website because it's phenomenal. It's amazing. The people he has on the website are just huge. They're literally, consider taking every single celebrity that you know. He's got every single celebrity on his website. It is just phenomenal. But can he discover an individual life purpose? No. Because when it drilled down into the information, it's literally helping people to live life more peacefully through meditation, mindfulness, and that kind of side of practice, as opposed to discovering what an individual's life purpose. But yet he has 2 million followers, 2 million students that have actually gone through his courses. So you can imagine from my perspective, here's me trying to reach people and knowing the level of clarity that I get for people in terms of even the students that have gone through the Discover Your Life Purpose course. And the level of clarity and certainty that they have in relation to life purpose is just phenomenal. Every client that I've had so far that have gone through what I call the Pilot's Manual, which is where you discover your life purpose, they're just blown away by the actual content of it. And the level of clarity, certainty and focus that it actually gives them. So when I looked at the website, I kind of saw 2 million students, and compared to where I am right now at the moment, I was kind of, that you can imagine what was going through my mind, let's put it that way. And that happens in terms of just a link that was shared to me. So that's what's been going on, guys, okay? And there's been an awful lot more that's been going on, both in a family perspective, an extended family perspective, in a friend perspective. Again, I only heard yesterday that from a friend whereby the person was going in for heart surgery. So it would just give you an idea of literally a full spectrum, all different things that are going on in my life. I don't share them with, pretty much as I said, I don't share them with anybody. I share it with my family, as in my wife and my kids, but nothing else outside of that. Because people have their own stuff to deal with. That's one of the reasons why I don't share it. Because it's not that it's not important to anybody else. It's not that it's not of any relevance to anybody else. It's not that it's from, I'm trying to keep anything kind of secret or private. It's not. It's just people have their own stuff to deal with. And for some people, what I've just listed out there, that's nothing. Whereas for other people, it may seem like an awful lot to deal with. But everybody has their stuff to deal with. And that's one of the points that I want to have within this particular podcast episode. But what's important is how we actually deal with it. What's important is how we deal with the challenges that show up in our life. So some of the things may be really, really small. So for example, the cost of the car service, that's tiny. But for other people, that can be huge when they're trying to figure out how can they pay the bills. And we're seeing energy costs go through the roof. We're seeing all different food costs go skyrocketing high. So for some people, that is huge. But for other people, it's tiny, it's negligible. What I'm trying to say to you is that everybody has challenges. We consider our own challenges as being enormous, and we make them really, really big, and therefore it paralyzes us in trying to deal with those challenges. So what I want to try and share with you is some of the things to perhaps help in helping others and helping people to deal with the challenges that show up in their life. Everybody has stuff to deal with. It's just how you actually deal and manage with your challenges is the main protocol. Now, again, if you've been listening to this podcast, and again, clients and people within the community will know I'm not a big person to put forward in relation to positive thinking. I'm not saying you go out there and, just try and make everything positive in the world, because that does not exist. But yet there's a phenomenal number of people out there in the, if you want to call it the personal development space, personal mastery space, whatever you want to call it, that put forward in relation to positive thinking. Positive thinking does not exist. It's a one-sided view of life. And where a lot of people put out on social media in terms of everything is rosy in the garden, everything's perfect, it never is. It absolutely never, because it can't be. And I'm going to explain why as I go through this particular episode. But so you'll never hear from me in terms of try and think positively. You'll never hear that, because again, you cannot have a one-sided life. So I prefer to give my clients and listeners to this episode or this podcast the tools that are going to help them properly and practically in their life in a real way, as opposed to trying to live a one-sided life or trying to live on a fluffy cloud, or trying to live, you might as well be, sitting on a mountain and with your legs crossed and trying to block out absolutely everything in your life and so on. You can't live like that. You absolutely can't. You've got a business to run, you've got a career to develop, you've got a family to look after, you've got kids, you've got family members, you name it. There's stuff that shows up in your life. It's how you deal with it. And that's the difference. And that's, hopefully, I want to give you some techniques or some tools that you may want to consider as part of trying to deal with the challenges that you may perhaps currently be facing right now at the moment, or the challenges that are going to show up in your life over the next number of months and over the next number of years. That's the reason or the purpose for this particular episode. Trying to live a one-sided life is a fallacy. So that's one thing. People's perceptions of other people's lives is people view other people as being, everything's great for them, everything's working well for them, they've got all the money, they've got all the relationships, they've got everything that they need in their life. But what you don't understand is perhaps what's actually going on for them in their life. And again, that's part of the reason why I'm sharing the information with you on this particular episode. So you never know, you absolutely never know what's going on for somebody else in their life. So you may think that everything's fine for them, or they may even portray that everything's fine. Like literally the millions of people that are doing that on social media every single day. That's not real. So where people and where you look at somebody else and saying everything's fine for them, that may not be the case. So one of the messages I'm going to ask is, be kind to yourself, but also be kind to others, because you never know what's going on for them. So I suppose the point I'm trying to make is consider the perceptions that you have of others and how you're looking at their life, and you think everything is fine for them or everything is rosy in their garden and they've no problems whatsoever, they've no challenges, they've nothing to worry about themselves about whatsoever. That's never the case, because there's always something in their life that's going to be a challenge. How do I know? The reason being is because there's a universal law of duality. Now, I share this quite a bit within the Pilot's Lounge, and I share this quite a bit with clients. When you fully understand the law of duality, it's a universal law. Most people will be familiar with a universal law in terms of the law of attraction. That's one of the universal laws, but there's many others. But if you don't understand all the other universal laws, trying to get the law of attraction working is going to be really, really difficult for you. And one of the universal laws which aids and helps the law of attraction is the law of duality. The law of duality states there is always both sides at every single moment in time. So what do I mean by that? There's always equal measures of positive and negative, benefits, drawbacks, support, challenge. There's always equal measures in every single moment in time. So when you understand the universal law of duality, you'll understand that the challenges that you're facing right now at the moment, there's also positive things that are happening and support that are happening in your life at exactly the same time. So let me explain the universal law of duality in real terms, in the sense of the examples that I've given you. So if we look at mum, okay, and the example, or what the information that I've shared in relation to mum. So as I said, she's 94. A lot of challenges going on in terms of as she gets closer to her end of life. A couple of weeks ago, I took off a week, and that's, for me to take off a week is quite a lot in terms of out of my business, because there's so much I want to achieve in relation to reaching as many people as I possibly can. So I decided to block out a week, and for me to do that, it needs to be done a couple of weeks in advance because so many different meetings take place. So I had to move different things around in order to try and get a complete week away from the business itself, as much as I possibly could. And what the focus of that week was to spend as much time or as many moments as I possibly could with mum for that particular week. And I have to say, yes, it had its challenges in terms of her care and her support and all that kind of things, but also the moments that I've had with her for that week, and since then as well anyway, and prior to that, but even just particularly that week, which wouldn't have happened if I hadn't taken a week off, were precious. So the laughter that came out of mum was just phenomenal. So the jokes that we had, the laughter that we had, just the little tiny moments of just the sheer joy on her face. And the laughter on her face were just phenomenal. So equally, you have a challenge, you have a support. So what I'm saying to you is that those moments of laughter are absolutely precious, as you can imagine. So what I'm saying to you is that while on one side there's challenges, on the other side, it's seeing those moments, or seeing the support, or seeing the benefits of those moments while you're also experiencing challenges. The 1 year anniversary reminds me of literally how precious life is, and it keeps me driving forward in order to actually reach the numbers of people that I'm trying to reach. So as I said, Eugene, when he passed away, he was 53. Anthony, when he passed away last year, he was 56. I'm 54. So that will give you an indication as regards part of what actually drives me to do what I do, and to try and reach as many people as I possibly can. So that 1 year anniversary was an absolute reminder of how precious life is, and for me to keep going and keep going and keep going to literally to reach as many people as I possibly can. My younger brother, Martin, which we're having a meeting with with the doctors on Wednesday, as I said, he was born with Down syndrome. Martin is 52. For us to have so many more years with Martin has been phenomenal. When Martin, as I was growing up, the average age for somebody that's born with Down syndrome, their life expectancy was the average age is 21. So that's what we grew up living with, that expectation, because of the heart condition that Martin had as well, in terms of that he would only have an expected life of in around 21. Now Martin is 52. That's a phenomenal age to actually achieve. And I've personally learned so much in how Martin lives, and again, if anybody is familiar with people with Down syndrome, you'll know what I mean by the sheer love that they express is absolutely phenomenal. Also, if Martin wants to do something, he'll do it. If he literally he doesn't care what other people think in relation to whatever that he wants to do. So if he wants to dance, he'll dance. If he wants to wear which he does, if he wants to wear a sailor's cap, he'll wear a sailor's cap. Despite what other people may be concerned or embarrassed about, Martin will do what he wants to do. And I've learned so much in relation to how he lives. And people, again, that will know or be familiar with people with Down syndrome, they all express similar traits in terms of the absolute unconditional love that they have for others, as well as they just want to do what they want to do. So there's more that we can actually learn from Martin, is what I would say. And again, as I said at the very beginning, the family dynamics that play out are huge. And so for me, that absolutely is passionate and loves everything to do with human behavior. You can imagine, to me, it's like a petri dish. It is literally, I see so many different dynamics and so many different things pan out both. And I'm also not just observing family members, I'm observing myself in that dynamic as well. So for me, when it comes to human behavior, I'm watching that and everything, how people react and how people engage and how people respond to different things. For me, it's huge. So again, that's the benefits of what's literally going through in relation to from a family dynamic perspective. When it comes to my own health conditions, I'm learning so much more in relation to every single consultant I speak to. I'm learning so much more about me, myself, my understanding of my own body, if you want to call it from a medical or from a scientific perspective. I'm getting much more deeper understanding from that side of things. And there's so many different people that I've met over the last number of years and will continue to do it. So that's been a huge learning from my side of things. When it came to my car service bill, the conversation that I had with the mechanic while he was running up the credit card was he had a similar car to me, and I was chatting to him in terms of how was his particular car going and so on, and he told me he sold it, but he sold it for a much higher expected value than what both he and I had actually anticipated. And in that conversation, I found out that my car was actually worth an awful lot more than what I had expected. So even though the bill came to close to €1,000, if I was to sell the car today, I would actually get close to somewhere between 10 to 15,000, much higher than what I had expected. So will I sell the car? Probably not likely, but it just gives me, I suppose, it definitely took the pain out of the bill in terms of knowing that there's a high demand for the particular car that I drive, and there's a much higher value being paid for the car that I drive. So again, that's something that happened at the exact same moment in time of literally the support and challenge at the exact same time. When it comes to the person that has 2 million students of being marketed as being guiding people towards their life purpose, which I know it's not done, what it tells me is what's possible. Now, if you know and understand when it comes to the law of attraction, you've got to understand and know about belief. That if you have the belief that something can come about or something is going to come about, well, then that increases how the law of attraction works. So just in summary terms and in very, very simplistic and quick terms. So when I see that 2 million students have actually gone through, that shows me what's possible in relation to especially the course that I have in terms of the level of clarity and certainty it gives to people. It increases the level of belief that I now have in relation to reaching the numbers of people that I want to reach before I pass away in this lifetime. So that belief is absolutely phenomenal. Now, does it help from the perspective of, this is something that I share with clients when we discover an individual's life purpose, because it's relevant for this. We can look at other people that have achieved amazing things in their life, but we don't know what they've gone through in order to achieve those amazing things. And we look at these people and they're, for want of a better word, seen as being an overnight success, but it's never, ever, ever an overnight success. And the analogy, or I suppose the metaphor that I give to people when they're looking at other people and putting them up on pedestals and wondering, are they ever going to achieve the level of success that they're seeing in other people? What you've got to understand is, imagine yourself that you're on step number 5 of 10 different steps. So again, just think of it from the perspective, you've got stairs in your house, and just imagine that there's 10 steps on that stairs. When you position yourself on step number 5, when you look up at the people that are on step 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, they're the people that you can see that have achieved more that you're currently experiencing or currently achieving right now at the moment. Equally, there's people that are on steps 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 that haven't perhaps achieved as much as what you perceive you have achieved in your life, that you are looking at them and seeing how much more they can actually achieve. When I look at this particular individual, I can see what's possible. I can see how perhaps some of the things that he's doing can be actually achieved. So when I'm looking at, I may consider him on step number 10 and therefore seeing what's absolutely possible. And that encourages me to move up to the next number of steps, if you understand what I mean. So really what I'm trying to say to you is that when you are comparing yourself to others, are you comparing yourself to somebody that's on step number 10, or are you comparing yourself to somebody that's equally on step number 5 or on 1, 2, 3, and 4? It depends on who you're comparing yourself to. So I just want to kind of just outline that side of things when people compare themselves to other people. The other thing that I want to say is that especially over the last week and over the last number of weeks, I've had the most amazing conversations with people, between clients and people that aren't clients. And I've had the most amazing conversations with them in terms of whether we discovering somebody's life purpose and seeing the difference in them and their demeanor, their energy, and literally just what it just absolutely gives them is just huge. But also the connections that I've made with different people right around the world, it is absolutely just been phenomenal. So while all the other challenging conversations have been taking place, I've also had some amazing conversations take place. The wins and the results that I see clients achieving is huge. It's phenomenal. I'm just blown away by what some clients are actually achieving. So what's my point? My point is there's always both sides. It's the universal law of duality. When you understand both sides and you understand how the universal law of duality and therefore how to work with the universal law of duality, now things become an awful lot easier. So if you're facing challenges, the challenges that you're facing in your life right now at the moment, where human behavior, you'll be naturally drawn towards the drawback or the negative view or perception of the challenges that you're facing right now at the moment. Force yourself to start to think, where are the benefits, or where are you getting support in your life, or what's actually happening in your life right now at the moment where it is actually good. And hence the reason why I was going through the different examples in my own life to help you in understanding that there's always both sides. So start to look at what are Where are you getting support? What are the benefits of the different things that are happening in your life? Where else, what are the good things that are happening in your life? And now you'll start to see the universal law of duality play out. So that's one of the first things I'm going to really encourage you guys to start to think about what may actually be playing out or working in your life right now at the moment. When we focus on one side, as in positive thinking, which is the whole movement that again I don't buy into, we're trying to play a one-sided life. Where you're also seeing all the negative things in your life, you're playing into a one-sided life. So, but there's always both sides. So when you're seeing both sides, you're now seeing objectivity, and now you're bringing yourself back into equilibrium. When you're back in equilibrium, that's when you're seeing everything objectively, but you're seeing everything from a space of love. And now you can also start to, as I mentioned earlier on in relation to law of attraction, you can start to bring more of what you want into your life. So we're going to be going through I think there's been a transition over the next number of years. And that transition is accelerating, and it's getting higher and higher and higher in its intensity. And I've observed that and sensed it definitely over the last number of years, but I'm finding it accelerating and intensifying as each month goes by. And what's going to be happening then over the next number of years is that's going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. So consider that we're in a transition right now at the moment. We're in a journey, and it's a transition. In that transition is going to bring a huge amount of turbulence. Sorry for using an aviation term, but it's going to bring a huge amount of turbulence. With that, there's going to be so much more challenges that are going to show up in people's lives. It's about how we actually deal with those challenges. So let me go through perhaps some of the things that you want to look at. One is understand the universal law of duality. I discussed it in an awful lot more detail in the Pilot's Lounge. If you want to find out more in relation to all the different universal laws and how to everything else that I discuss anyway on this podcast, the Pilot's Lounge is probably the best place to start with, because that's where literally we're going to we drill down into so much more information. Understand comparative thinking, which I explained just a few moments ago. Start to look at also where are you judging yourself and where are you judging others, because this transition will be partly about coming to a point of love. When you're judging yourself, you're not love. When you're judging others, you're also not demonstrating love. So look at it from the perspective, the more you start to eliminate judgment, both of yourself and of others, now you're coming to a point of love. And therefore things become an awful lot more easier to manage and to deal with. Now, what it would also do is that, so in our judgment of others, it's also a feedback mechanism of what we're not owning within ourselves. So there's more, again, to be understood by when we're actually judging ourselves and when we're judging others. And again, I drill down in an awful lot more detail on that particular subject matter within the Pilot's Lounge. What's going to come up for a lot of people is fear. So when you understand what fear is about, now you can understand how you can tackle it or deal with it. Fear is a feedback mechanism. What you got to understand is what's the feedback is the emotion or the feeling giving you. So with it being feedback, it means that it's an attachment. So what you've got to find out is what's the underlying fear that you have, and therefore what's the attachment that you have. And then it's get through process in order to actually let go of the fear. In other words, to let go of the attachment. When you've let go of the attachment and you've dissolved the attachment, now you don't have the fear. So that's part of, again, the work that we do within the Pilot's Lounge, but it's understanding what is actually the underlying cause of the fear that you're experiencing right now at the moment. And therefore, what is it that you can build in to prevent the fear showing up? Now, also, when it comes to fear, what you also want to be conscious of is that there will be underlying beliefs, there'll be cellular DNA, there'll be past lives that will come into play. So when it comes to fear, there's an awful lot of things and much, much deeper of what you got to understand. It's not just about, there's a book that came out, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. I don't buy into that in terms of, I can understand the messaging of it, but understand it's not just about blasting through fear. That's not what it's about. If you don't understand the underlying cause of the fear and what is the belief system around it, what's actually happening, and therefore understanding how you dissolve the attachment of it, well then you're not how would I say, you're not mastering the fear from that side of things. So it's not a case of just feel the fear and do it anyway. Other things that you want to start looking at as well, or not start off, again, if you listen to this podcast, you'll know these are some of the things that I keep referring to. And again, clients and members of the Pilots Lounge will understand as soon as they start to hear this, and that's self-care. Self-care is just so critically important and will become more and more important over the next number of months and over the next couple of years. From a self-care perspective, the more time that you can spend in nature, the better. Now, when I say nature, I don't mean going to a local park whereby it's still surrounded by buildings. That's not nature. Yes, it has trees and grass. Okay, forget about that. But it's not the nature where I'm encouraging clients to go. Nature is where literally, if you can't see a building, now you're in nature. Meaning that you are surrounded by trees or water or, a lake or whatever it be. It's literally you're immersed in nature from that perspective, because there's so much more that you're going to get from being immersed in nature. So it's the energy that's within it. There's so many other things that are coming to play. I'm not going to go into it in this particular podcast. But just the more time that you can spend and immerse yourself in nature, the more benefits you're going to get from a self-care perspective. Look at the people that are around you. Now, I'm going to I'm going to borrow a phrase from Marie Kondo. So Marie Kondo, if you know her, you'll understand it from where she uses the phrase, does it bring you joy? Now you'll understand what Marie Kondo is in terms of the work that she does, or it'll be a reminder of who she is for people that know her. And if you don't know her, look her up on online. But when it comes to the people that are around you, ask yourself the question, do they bring you joy? Now, are there people that will be around you that could even potentially be family members or relations? And in some respects, can you get rid of them or can you distance yourself? No, not necessarily. But I use the phrase, you can love somebody, you don't have to like them. Now, when you fully understand the definition and the meaning of that sentence, now you'll understand how you can still work with somebody. You can still absolutely have a point of love with them, but you don't necessarily have to like what they demonstrate or what they portray. So, but apart from family members, because yes, can we get rid of family members? We tend not to want to, okay, but you'll understand what I mean by that from that side of things. But look at the people that are around you and ask yourself the question, are the people that are around you, do they bring you joy? And if they don't, well then what is it that you want to do about them? Because you're in complete control of the actions that you take. So what is it that you want to do when it comes to the people that are around you? Meditation is something that I would highly encourage you to do. And there's a multitude of different forms of meditation, but meditation will help in dealing with a lot of the challenges that people face in life. Next thing is to look at the narrator that goes on in your mind, what I call your mental narrator. So you know that little voice that goes on in your head the whole time, and it's narrating pretty much every single thing that you're thinking and doing right throughout your whole day. But is that mental narrator positive or negative? And now what you want to try and do is, if it's negative, well then how can you try and change some of the language or the conversation or the narrative that's going on in your mind from that side of things. So just be cognizant of what is that narrator like that's inside your head. And again, let's go back to my previous point. The people around you, do they bring you joy? Does your mental narrator bring you joy? And if not, well then what can you do to help to change the voice that's going on inside your head? Questions that you also want to ask yourself is, how can I? Or what can I? And what do I mean by that? When it's an open-ended question from the perspective, how can I solve this particular problem? Or what can I do to get around this challenge or get over this challenge or whatever? Now that's an open-ended question. When it's an open-ended question from that perspective, the unconscious is there to provide the answer. And then what you want to allow yourself into is to understand the inspired thoughts that you will get and the information and nudges that you'll get from your unconscious in order to guide you of what it is that you're to do. Those inspired thoughts become inspired actions, hence the reason for this particular episode. And again, as I said at the very beginning, I wasn't intending to record an episode because of everything that's going on right now at the moment. It's extremely busy from that side of things. But when I got the prompt this morning and woken up from the perspective of, you've got to do this, here's the content you need to cover, I had to record the episode. That's an inspired thought which fed into an inspired action. So what I would say to you is that when you understand how your unconscious works and the nudges that you'll get and how you develop, think of it this way, how you develop that relationship with your unconscious, now you can get into a much, much easier flow. Let's put it that way. The other side, and again, this is going to trickle into from a fear perspective, or maybe some of the challenges that people will be experiencing right now at the moment, is you've got to trust and then you got to believe. So meaning trusting and believing that it is always going to work out for the good. Now, I can't get into much more detail on this because otherwise this episode will take hours. This is something that I cover within the Pilot's Lounge in order to build that trust and build that belief. And when you know and you have that level of trust and belief, you know that things are going to work out. So, and that's where you want to build, especially when I said earlier on, when it comes to the law of attraction, you want to have that belief, you want to have that trust and knowing that it's going to happen. So therefore, it's how you can start to nurture and build that for yourself. But it's definitely something you want to be looking at. Move away from objective thinking and move away from knee-jerk responses into more objective thinking. So objective is seeing both sides. It's not being seen just a one-sided view of something or a decision that you're going to make or an action that you're going to take. If it's an inspired thought and which feeds into an inspired action, it will automatically be inherent within it to be objective, meaning it's both sides. If it is constructed thought, meaning your conscious thinking, it will be biased towards one side. So that's one thing you want to be conscious of and be aware of. So when it's biased, it means it's going to be a knee-jerk response as opposed to being objective. So when it's a conscious thought and therefore it's biased, you need to look at how can you make it objective. Objective is seeing both sides. So it's any action that you're going to take while you're going through different challenges right now at the moment. There are likely, if it's not an inspired thought and which feeds into an inspired action, well then it's likely to be a knee-jerk response. Hold yourself back from making knee-jerk responses and go through a process in order to actually make it an objective. And then once it's objective, now you can decide as regards, do you move forward on that particular action? So again, especially when a lot of challenges show for people, it's something that I observe happening quite a lot. So just be conscious of that side of things. Next thing is be kind to yourself. Yes, there's a lot of stuff that can be going on in your life right now at the moment. And this is kind of separate to self-care, but also kind of connected. But you've got to be kind to yourself. You've got to say, stop trying to, when I say be kind to yourself, is making sure that you don't have a stick that you're beating yourself up with. Now, is that part of self-care? Yes, it is. But I'm re-emphasizing in a different way. It's connected, but I see it slightly differently. There's circumstances where people will literally pick up a stick and beat themselves up with in terms of because they haven't achieved X, Y, and Z, or they're not seeing the results of what they were expecting. So therefore they will mentally, literally beat themselves up. So what I'm trying to say to you is be kind to yourself. Also be observant of the voices that are around you. Now, if you look on social media, and Twitter being primary one, if you were to go into Twitter, you'll see all the negativity that shows up and all the arguments, and everybody's quick and so absolutely speedy and quickly to get into an argument. It's just phenomenal. I see it, I look at it from a human behavior perspective and I'm absolutely just aghast at what actually goes on. But I'm observing literally what goes on from that side of things. But if you're tuning into it or buying into it, now that's going to have an influence on your belief system. So social media is one thing. Your news that you tune into, or the people that are around you, as I said earlier on. Think of it as being, if you're constantly getting that news and constantly getting that feed in your social media, that's gaslighting. So think of it from that perspective. If you're regularly and repeatedly getting that messaging, think of it as being gaslighting, because that's pretty much what you're going to be achieving or getting as a result of that, which has a direct impact on the belief system now that you're going to have. So just be conscious of the voices that you have around you. When it comes to, and I'm going to close off on this one. When it comes to, a lot of people feel that they have a purpose in life, and they think their purpose in life is to pay the bills or build their business or to increase shareholder value or whatever it might be. They go through life from their perspective. That's what they believe their existence is, or that's what they believe they're here for, or they believe they are to do something with their business or their career from that side of things. And people follow passions and they follow what they like to do, but however, they're never, ever, ever got anything to do with what their purpose is. Never. So why am I saying this? The reason being is that when you have your purpose and you're absolutely crystal clear on what it is your purpose is, well, then now that gives you the drive, the motivation, and the fulfillment to do what it is that you need to do. In other words, when you see obstacles, you don't see them. You've got your focus on your purpose. So therefore, you see through the obstacle, you see around the obstacle, you see over the obstacle. You don't see them as obstacles because you're driven to achieve what it is that you're here to achieve. That's what purpose gives you. Now, how do you find your purpose? That's the work that I do. Anybody that knows me from the purpose that they've gone through in terms of Discover Your Life Purpose course, or they've gone through in relation to one-to-one, in relation to discover what their life purpose, they know the level of clarity that they get from understanding what their life purpose is. When you are focused and driven, what I mean by that, when you are living your life in line with your life purpose, you're focused and driven and you're getting to fulfillment from fulfilling your life purpose. When you are on that, now you literally blast through challenges. So you literally don't see challenges. Now, all the other things that I've mentioned already help with dealing with all the different challenges that show up in people's lives. But your purpose drives you forward. So therefore, it's like having a turbocharge on your life in order to get to where you want to get to. So what I would say to you is, if you don't know what your life purpose is, by all means, head over to www.paulwilliamdavis.com, and there you'll find all the different ways of how you can either work with me or within our community or go through the course in order to discover what your true life purpose is. The level of clarity and certainty that it gives in relation to your life purpose is huge. It's absolutely huge. So again, if you want to find out those details, literally just go to my website, paulwilliamdavis.com, and you'll find all the details there. But you will be facing challenges right now at the moment. There's no doubt, because the universal law of duality states that you have to have both sides. So there will be challenges in your life right now at the moment. So you may consider going over this episode several times in order to find all the information that I've given in this particular episode, because it's absolutely jam-packed with a lot of different techniques or tools or strategies or whatever you want to consider, help or guidance or support in relation to dealing with the challenges. There's going to be an awful lot more challenges going to be coming down through the tracks, hence the reason why I've been prompted to do this particular episode. I hope you found it to be of helpful to you. As I said to you, I don't, as I said at the very beginning, I don't share personal information. I shared it in this particular episode. I'm highly unlikely to share it in any other future episode unless I'm prompted to do it at another future episode. It's not from the point of view of woe is me or trying to get support from it. It's not, absolutely not. I'm looking at it from the point of view of showing you both sides of where the support is there and where the challenge is there. There's always, always, always both sides. Can you overcome the challenges? You absolutely can. There's a lot of different ways of how you can overcome the challenges. Nothing is ever impossible. Everything is possible. So until next time, I wish you every success.